السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بنحب نبدأ بجلستنا للتكلم عن الذكاء الصناعي التوليدي. وفي البداية بحب أعرف عن الأستاذ زاهر سرور، مدير الشركات في منصة كورسيرا في الشرق الأوسط وإفريقيا، والأستاذ أنس بوهلال، دكتور أنس بوهلال من اليونسكو، وهو أخصائي لبرامج التعليم العالي والفني والمهني.
علي صوتك شوي، مش عم نسمع. ما عم نسمعك.
في البداية بنحب نبدأ نتكلم عن الذكاء الصناعي بشكل عام وتطبيقاته. جميعا لدينا بعض التخوفات بالإضافة إلى وجود الفرص في التعامل مع الذكاء الصناعي التوليدي. ولمناقشة هذا الموضوع أحب أن أبدأ بالسؤال للأستاذ زاهر. الأستاذ زاهر لديهم بعض التطبيقات اللي من خلالها يجدوا فرص قوية لاستخدام الذكاء الصناعي في التعامل مع سواء الأمور المتعلقة في المحتوى أو في متابعة المواهب التي ممكن أن نحصل عليها من خلال هذه البرامج، والعديد من الأمور اللي بحب أنه هو يشاركنا فيها. فتفضل أستاذ زاهر.
Thank you. شكرا. So at the beginning, before I come to Coursera and talk about where is AI and generative AI is being applied in the company, let me give you a quick intro about the company, so you can appreciate where I'm coming from and what are we trying to achieve and what we're trying to help out with. So Coursera partners with over 375 world-leading universities and top companies to bring online, to bring affordable, flexible, job-relevant learning to both individuals and organizations. Why is that? Because the mission is very straightforward. We want to make sure that everyone, anywhere, delivers, or we want to enable them to transform their lives through learning. Now, Coursera has been founded by two professors, two computer scientists, back in 2012, and coincidentally they are AI professors, or at that time they were teaching machine learning and deep learning. Now, before I go to speak about what we are doing in the AI field, because everybody knows that Coursera teaches, because of our partners, teaches different type of learning material. One of them is AI. But I would like to also talk about where Coursera is also applying AI in our models. Now, basically, AI is very disruptive, and when we look at generative AI, it's even more disruptive. It's making everybody nervous. It's making me nervous. I'm not an AI specialist. I'm an AI user in different applications. Now, when generative AI, or when the company that came up with ChatGPT last year, presented its product, it really captured the imagination of everyone, because what we've been seeing, I mean, AI is not something new. It's been there for ages. It's been there for so many decades. However, we always think that AI can always affect those individuals that have low skills, or they are in jobs that they are very low skilled jobs. There's a famous chart, I would say, back from 2017 that has been produced by Bloomberg, Oxford University, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That chart displays that low-skilled jobs are more vulnerable to automation than the higher skilled jobs. Now, obviously, those low-skilled jobs do not require college degrees. They need only formal education. And at that time, the idea is that if you want to move on to high-skilled jobs, you need to go and study. You need to get credentials so that you can secure some of these jobs and get yourself a better life. Now, that was back in 2017. when we look at ourselves today, 2023, there has been a very important study which has been produced by University of Pennsylvania. That was back in March this year. The study says that both low-skilled and high-skilled jobs are exposed to automation. They are both exposed to large language models that generative AI is giving us now. And when you look at the figures, I mean, it's very worrying is that up to 49% of highly educated workers, their jobs are exposed to more than 50% of their tasks are exposed to these type of large language models. So that is by itself is very disruptive, because we thought that those who earn PhD degrees, those who have really high degrees from universities, are immune from that evolution. Now, with that, there is another question here that will be raised. I mean, questions around job losses. I mean, usually, with every disruptive technology, job losses became a topic in the news, and we think that technology is always creating more jobs than destroying jobs. Now, this is a quick, just to put things in context here. I'll go back to Coursera here to make sure that we at Coursera, we want to make sure that we give education, or access to education is equal to everyone. And therefore, to be aligned with our mission, we made use of those AI technologies to make this mission realistic. Do you want me to speak about some applications, or shall we move it? Keep it. Sure.
I want to the question, because we are talking. Okay, can you hear me now? Thank you, Mr. Zahir. We will come back to you with some of the applications that Coursera is doing to ensure the accessibility, as it's one of the limitations.
Right.
Yet, I would like to move to Dr. Anas. Dr. Anas, when we are talking about AI, we can hear some concerns from everyone. Whether it is on the application level, whether it's in the job loss. But I would like to come to you with a discussion on the regulations, specifically that you are coming from UNESCO, and the regulatory part, the ethical part, the intellectual property are some of the very controversial issues that are arised by generative AI. And also, even if we have those agreements, like how do you see those limitations? And if you can give us a little bit of a historical background on the agreements that are happening, and where do you see things going?
Thank you for the question. And I think first, I'm really delighted to be with you today. So, and I think by getting the invitation to contribute from UNESCO side, as the house, as you know, UNESCO is more focusing on standard development. And I think if you allowed me before to come to the regulations, when I was a young student in the 80s, we were talking about computers. And I had this computer when I was in 82. But I've heard that some professors somewhere developed big computers which would like to be performing as the humans, but using the human facilities such voice and senses. Wow. Science fictions. At that time, as an engineer, I was thinking about that, will this be possible? And since the 50s, at that time, professors were talking about artificial intelligence. It's not new. This is one. Second, what is very primordial, I think, that this rapid changes, what we have seen now, and this is the most important to stop on it. Last week, we had a meeting with Microsoft. They told us the statistics. The number of users of internet in 10 years is equal to the number of using AI ChatGPT in 1 year.
Wow.
Could you imagine? This will give you a sense of how these things are really important. And the biggest problem we're facing, we as users, or governments as policy makers, or standards implementers, they are also in big questions. Are we facing some risks, or is it opportunities for us? In terms of opportunities, please allow me to read a report published last year, made by a respectable consulting company for GCC countries, PwC. They told that the potential impact of AI in the Middle East will represent 320 billion by 2030. Can you imagine? So for the last sessions, we were talking about 5 trillion to modernize the region, but now we're talking only for the AI itself. We need such money. So it can create possibilities. For the AI contributions for UAE is 96 billion, which represents 30.6 of GDP of UAE. It's huge. It's really huge. And I think this is the report that has been delivered to the prime ministers, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is in terms of opportunities. It exists. But now the risks. The risk was what we are, I think, we're facing, in my opinion, that my colleague just said that fear, maybe تخوف, that the government are not sure and not trusting what AI can decide. And the most important things, they are fear or afraid that AI can create another jobless people because the high level of automatations. But the fear, also the other one is related to the privacy issues. The third one, I think, is very, very important, the cultural identity. Mainly, we are from the Arab region, is our culture, our language is touched. As we know, the language of AI is more Anglo-Saxon language. Even Chinese, they are facing the language issues. So this is, and I think, they are the most serious threats or problems maybe that the member states or the government are facing. If you would like me to come back to the standards and how the countries had decided to solve this problem, UNESCO, and this is our work, on 2021, all the member states, 193 countries, adopted what is named the recommendation on ethics of AI. I can come back to it maybe later on. Thank you.
Just to elaborate on what you have said and coming back to the regulations and some of the limitations, a big limitation we see is the understanding of the context. Because even if the AI at the moment being trained, as you said, from Anglo-Saxon countries or the ability to have the computational training, and it has to be like on a massive scale, in very resourceful countries, and there is a big lack happening in the Middle East. So though I see that there is a potential for the AI, there is also a limitation at the moment that it has to be rapidly going into the training, going into feeding our own context and also the language barrier, as you mentioned. And going back to you, Mr. Zahir, looking at those limitations and looking at those contexts, I think you have also a positive view on how those limitations could be turned into opportunities with the way that you have done in Coursera. And also this is a model that we can adopt not only on a one-scale company. This is only one application, and I'm sure there are so many other companies that can do different applications, whether in education or rather than the education. But I would like to come back to you with the applications.
Yeah.
how did you reduce costs? How are you looking into the accessibility issue? How are you looking into the creating the content would not hinder creativity and you know all the other things that comes with creating such content. So I would like to come back to you with this, please.
Thank you. I think AI is creating more value more than reducing costs. I mean, usually when we go for technology, we wish or we would like to see saving in cost. But I think when we read the reports that's coming out from very recent reports, I mean, there's a report from McKinsey talking about AI or generative AI is adding between 2.6 and 4.4 trillion dollars to the global economy. Obviously, this is not from the cost saving. It is because more value has been generated. I mean, organizations, governments, you know, institutions are rethinking the whole work processes around this thing here. I'm not sure how many of you coming from the government, but I think there is a very important report that came out very fresh, and this is from Harvard Business School with an experiment that has been made with one of the largest management consulting companies, which is Boston Consulting Group. So what they did actually, they took 3 groups of employees. The first group, they did not give them any AI tools, or they were testing it on ChatGPT. The other group, they gave them the tools, but they did not give them training. And the third group, they gave them the tool and they trained them how to use the tool. And they've done the experiments, and the result was that those who were AI powered by the tool and they were trained, they did I think 12% more of the tasks that has been given to them at a 25% speed more, with 40% higher quality. I mean, this is a report, you can find it on the net, and I really encourage you to go through it. Now, we are talking about productivity because we think that with ChatGPT and with other tools from Google and others, they are kind of lifting the capabilities of the learners, lifting the capabilities of the employees or the poor achievers so that they become better achievers. Now, how are we investing this, or how are we leveraging this in Coursera? I'll start with one of the applications which we always thought about, but we were not able to overcome. Basically, this is the language barrier. Now, Coursera has, as we speak now, more than 130 million learners. They're coming to Coursera to acquire, upskill, and retrain. Now, more than 75% of our learners, they are coming from regions who are not English-speaking regions. So the English language is a barrier for them. And in the past, based on the request from some of the governments, our partners, some of the countries that we are working with, we have translated a number of courses and programs and certificates, whatever we have. I want you to imagine here, I mean, the cost of translating one course at the time to one language, it used to cost us $13,000. Now, we are applying here machine learning, we are applying translation with AI. We have done so far 4,000 courses translated into 17 languages where the course cost is $20. So you imagine the expense saving that we are using. We are kind of leveraging and harnessing this technology to our learners. Another application that we are kind of pioneering with, and we only launched it very soon, I would say a couple of months back, which is kind of assisting learners with their personalized learning. Now, again, if you think about all these 130 million learners who are studying on Coursera, coming to Coursera through their organizations, through their governments, through their institutions, universities, the learning curve or their learning is not linear. I mean, if I'm a student, my learning, habits and my learning pattern is different than someone who wanted to reskill and wanted to advance in a career. So I have to stop in my learning. I have to reflect. I have to ask questions myself. I have to see if I'm studying this course or this material, or if I'm building that specific skill or competency, is that relevant to the career that I'm aspiring? So what we did actually, and that was also because of the use of generative AI, we built a tool which is powered by Gen AI or generative AI, where it helps learners to personalize their learning. They can ask questions. So this tool specifically knows everything about the course or the material that the learner is learning. Now, you can ask questions. You can ask the tool these questions. You can ask the tool to summarize some difficult concepts. You can ask the tool to reflect on some specific applications related to some job applications. And with that, we're seeing that learners are not feeling alone in their journey. And that was one of the difficulties of coming to an online environment where you wanted to study by yourself. So basically, with that tool, which has been empowered by generative AI, we managed to, we're still testing it, in fact. We only have 2 months of data. However, we believe that these type of assistance will help learners, regardless from coming from any background they come from, to leverage the technology and make sure that they are building the skills that they're coming to acquire. So that's 2 applications where we are kind of using this AI, and there are many other applications we are kind of still testing them to make sure that our learners are benefiting from that.
Thank you for sharing the adaptive learning platform method that you are following, and the personal tutoring or coaching for the users. However, I would like to capitalize on the idea that we only have 2 months of data, which, as you said, it's too early to see the full benefit of that. And I'm sure, as we all know, that the artificial intelligence will keep learning. How do we learn? And this is also raise another question. Like, it is collecting all this data of how a nation would learn. What's the liability of the data that you will have on each nation, and how can people feel that it's safe and secured? Is it going to be used with them or against them over time? Like, these are other questions that we would see, especially when you are learning a lot about the details of each one of us and how we learn, where do we struggle, what are the topics that certain nation is interested in and other topics are not. And also knowing that generative AI, or in general artificial intelligence, will usually focus on what are our interests. This might be a little bit overfitting or generalizing that this nation would be interested in certain topic and not giving them the broad range. So I have also other questions that I would like to come back to you later on for you to think of. But coming back to Dr. Anas, you wanted to share with us some of the regulations, some of the things that we can feel that the usage of artificial intelligence wouldn't be used against us in the future. And also, I would like to highlight a little bit more on the Arabic role. Is there anything that you can see as a potential for the Arab world to come together and create something related to this industry? Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, please allow me to give an example of how we as human beings we learn. We learn as we know. We can learn through new concepts, through 1 example, 2 examples, 3 examples. And this is very simple. But the machine, to understand the new concepts, it requires a huge number of data. And this is where it comes the problem. So it's our data. It's my shoes says, it's my diary things, it's my work, it's your, etc., and ours. Accumulating all those data will become a tool for a decision making. Someone will make decision on our behalf. Maybe on the consumer behavior, or maybe on decision makers on high level, maybe even on the state security level. And this is where I think it comes the question of the regulations. And here we have 3 or 4 models of regulations globally. First, we have the Chinese model, what it's named statist. That means the strong state's role in regulating the AI users. Not, I don't say less democratical, but it's more state-oriented. We have the second one, which is the European Union, which is more focused on the privacy and the citizens' rights, which is the famous of AI Act in Europe. The third one is the American one, which is more business and commercial oriented. This is, I think, more close to creating values, but creating also money of it. Then we have the one which is the number 4, which is coming recently, the soft model, is to Singapore. Singapore is building the regulation on trust. We can use, but please behave, be trustful. So it's more moderate, not regulating with the hard tools. So I think this is a starting point to understand that some countries are going to regulate and some they are not. And the question, why we need to regulate? Some countries, they told us that, especially from non-highly industrialized countries, we are only users. We are not technology creators. You are creators, please go and regulate it. We as users, we try what to do to protect our citizens, to protect our users. And then it comes the big decision on, I would like that AI can be very correct in making a decision on tribunal affairs, will be judged very fairly. So I think the machine maybe will not be doing the same things exactly as the human being can do in it. So I think this is where the discussion now is going on high-level discussions between the government to go for regulations. It have argument on that, but not to go also have an argument on that. To come back to your question, what is concerning the Arab region. And I think Mr. Zahir is talking about focusing more on the education part, on the skills. Unfortunately, our region, it's still very conservative. We are not taking those things as first coming to take it with open arms. Yes. So we are very conservative because we are afraid, because it will touch our culture, it will touch our regulations, it may touch other things. So I will be coming to talk about the skills and the certificate and what is named even the competences. Those acquired with digital platforms. Why I'm saying that the region is very conservative? Because those skills are not recognized. If you are taking, let's say, I'm not talking about the whole degree online, in Lebanon, will not be recognized 100% in Tunisia. Because those governments haven't decided themselves to recognize those qualifications. They may be very modern. If Mr. Zahir is taking model on marketing online, they can accept a module with 4 credits or 5 credits, but they cannot accept the entire certificate, or not talking about competencies. And I think talking about only certificates and modules. The modules exist in the world, and I think, you know, from UNESCO perspective, and you know very well when you are about to be studying in Europe, Lisbon Agreement. Lisbon Convention started in 1997, making people studying everywhere in Europe. 6 months mobility, 1 year, full degree, and it recognizes mutually. Those things are not happening in our region yet. Because the member states in Europe had adopted the Lisbon Convention, and they are implementing it on a daily basis among the universities. It takes time. The Arab region has what is named the Arab Convention on the recognition of higher education diplomas, degrees, and certificates in the Arab states. Last in 2022, yes, 2022, in Paris, member states agreed on adopting this convention. But adopting it, it's one, but implementing it is the second. So we need 5 countries to endorse this convention. Then we start implementing it as the others are doing it in Latin America, in Europe, because the European one is the brilliant implemented. The others are still moving very, very slowly.
I have a question for the audience. How many of you believe that you are using artificial intelligence or generative AI on regular basis in your application, in your jobs on daily basis? Okay. And how many of you is using this at least once every 2 weeks? How many of you is reluctant not to use the artificial intelligence? Okay. I'd like to hear from you who are reluctant. Like, what are your views on that? Like, why do you feel it's limiting you from using it? And when we talk about artificial intelligence, do you see a threat using the technology, or do you see any potential of creating this technology? Can we please pass a microphone for yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a professor in a university. I think it all relies on, your professional practice, in the sense that, if it was just, managing data and all that, it's possible to actually use it. But within the university context or the learning context, it's always very difficult, because it's not just about the knowledge, but it's about developing students, critical thinking and all that. So usually you actually throw students into the array of this to actually explore and so on. Not necessarily the product, going to, ChatGPT and then generating information. It goes beyond that. So I personally, and some of my colleagues don't use that, because it's more about developing students' minds to be able to engage with the AI, rather than just the product that comes out of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much on your view as a professor. This is very important to know, like, who is reluctant to use it. I want to take from the audience someone who is actually using the AI, like, very often, and feel like you're proficient with that. What's your view? Like, how do you see the added value of the artificial intelligence application on your job? And please try to tell us what is it exactly that you do, so that we have the context. Yes.
Is it working?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. So basically, I started using AI around 1.5 years ago. I did it firstly for my university. I'm doing my master in business administration. And then I started using ChatGPT and Google Bard in my day-to-day job. For example, ChatGPT helped me to create my master thesis, a lot. And I was using it day to day. Also in my work, I'm doing a training and I'm creating a lot of presentations, a lot of content, a lot of messages. It's all done by ChatGPT now. like my emails. I used to spend like a lot of time writing emails. Now, like, yeah, please reply to this email, enter, and the reply is there already. I just have to read it, prove it, and send it. Like, I saved a lot of time I used it to like learn new things and enhance other skills, or like use it in my university, or even with my family and friends. So in my opinion, ChatGPT, it's something we should not be scared of. We should be like implementing this in our day-to-day. Like even in my work right now, and where I'm in my current company, we are using ChatGPT. For example, I'm working in real estate, so we are using ChatGPT to create like a lot of like advertisements, descriptions, even like things like listing descriptions. Like it's everywhere. Everything we can create, it's now done by ChatGPT, and we didn't lose anybody of our employees yet because of it. So, inshallah, I'm staying. I'm not losing my job because of it. Actually, because I'm implementing. I believe something. AI is not going to replace employees, but employees who's using AI will be replacing other employees. This is my point of view. And that's it. Thank you.
Lama, can I add something here? Yeah, I like what you said about this, and that reminds me of something I learned recently when I was taking a course on generative AI for everyone. This is a very new course which has been made by one of the co-founders of Coursera. I like it to an extent that I took a screenshot of it here, and I want you to reckon what you just mentioned. So basically, the instructor, who was Andrew Ng, one of the co-founders, he was saying that he was referring to the godfather of AI, Geoff Hinton. Geoff Hinton is a famous computer scientist, and he's considered to be the godfather of the AI. So he said back in 2016, if you work as a radiologist, you are like the coyote. Coyote is like a wolf that's already over the edge of the cliff, but have not looked down. So it does not realize there is no ground underneath them. People should stop training radiologists now. It's just completely obvious that within 5 years, deep learning is going to do better than radiologists. That was the guy who said that in 2016. Now, in the lecture, Andrew was saying that none of the radiologists that he knew or he knows has lost their jobs. And because he believes that interpreting data is one of the tasks that the radiologist does. And he was referring to a side that if you are a radiologist, you do 30 different tasks that artificial intelligence cannot replace. Now, 5 years later, another guy called Curtis Langlotz, a professor of radiology at Stanford University, said, and you will like it, AI will not replace radiologists, but radiologists that use AI will replace radiologists that do not. So that also, goes to anyone in the field of customer service, in sales, in marketing, educators. So that could be something for us to learn from.
The idea of this discussion is not because we want to say it's either or. It's because we want to say it's both and. We have both opportunities and challenges comes together. As educators, if we were just looking a little bit in depth on the examples that we had now, our professor was reluctant because he is very much concerned about the critical thinking, the idea generation, if it's really originally done by the students or not, and the piece of work, if it really helps them gain the skills needed of persistence and perseverance. On the other hand, when we saw the example of a student doing their master's degree, they are having the benefit of cutting corners, making the things faster, much more efficient. But at the same time, how can we create and collaborate together to understand how is this usage should be or the creation of technology should be? Because as of today, we can see that even if professors decided that they will not agree of using this, it doesn't mean that the students are not going to go and use them. And in order to do so, I would go back to Turnitin, who was one of the companies that would look at plagiarism, that they are creating a tool so that we can help students reference how many prompts they did before getting into the result that they are giving us on a piece of paper or a work or homework. Thank you so much for your time and for participation, for your questions. And I would really emphasize on the idea that knowledge is power. And the more we learn, the more we will be able to use and adopt and create. And I hope that in the future sessions, we will be talking about creating our own models, not only using what's there available for us. Thank you so much, and thanks for attending.
Thank you.